To create a velocity profile, we first need a device to measure barbell velocity, such as this linear position encoder. We then complete 5 sets of an exercise at 20, 40, 60, 80 and 90% of your 1 repetition max, measuring the velocity of each. Once I've taken the data, I'll then move it across to Excel. As we can see, the load gets put into these boxes here. The velocity we recorded from each of the lifts goes here. And the power, which is also recorded from the same device, goes into here. These numbers then generate this chart down here. We have our straight line. This is our velocity against the load. And we have our curved line, which is our load against power. These equations here give us these numbers, which I then add up here. This then calculates, based on the velocity that you'd like to move the weight at, what weight you need to be moving, and roughly what percentage of your lift that would be equivalent to. Each of these is what's called a velocity zone. If we move over to here, we have our velocity zones. We have our starting strength, our speed strength, strength speed, accelerative strength, and absolute strength. We typically find that power sits somewhere between 20 and 80, with speed here and strength up here. So that's then showing roughly where you would need to lift in each of these different speed zones. On top of that, the other thing we can calculate is our max load for power and velocity. So based on the numbers I've got here, based on the chart that's been developed, if I was to lift at maximum power, I would need to lift 95 kilos, which would be roughly 0.82 meters per second, which sits in this category here. And it reckons that is about 63% of my 1RM. So it'll be sitting just in here, right in the center. The next thing I'll take a look at is the angle of this slope. Based on whether the slope is above 45 degrees, 45, or under 45 degrees, I can determine whether somebody is strength focused, speed focused, or a balanced athlete. With my number here being 43, I can see that I'm sitting slightly under. So for the deadlift and the numbers that I've generated on this particular test day, I am slightly more strength focused, with 45 being the balanced athlete. Now, the next thing that I've got is a chart here. This chart shows you that if you were to lift at a 10 effort for 1 repetition, you'd need to be lifting around that 0.3 meters per second mark, which equates to the 164.49, which is these numbers over here. And then the chart extrapolates from there based on number of reps and how difficult you'd like to make it. So if you wanted to lift 5 reps for a 10 effort, 10 being max effort, you're hitting failure, we're looking at 0.49 meters per second, which is going to be right here on the edge of the strength zone, and that's going to be about 140 kilos. So by getting your load velocity and your load power profile tested, you'll receive a sheet that looks exactly like this, except it will have your numbers that you generated from your tests in it. You'll then be able to determine from that what velocity zones you need to be lifting at and what weights you'll need to be lifting to be within those zones. You'll know where your max power sits and what percentage of your 1RM that relates to, and you'll know what type of athlete you are for this particular exercise, whether you are a strength athlete, a speed athlete, or a balanced athlete. You can then take all of this data and you can use it to enhance your own workouts. Or if you have a coach that does your programming and your work for you, you can provide this data to them so they can better tailor to your performance requirements. This completes this brief outline on what load velocity and load power profiling is. If you would like to get your own profile completed, or if you're a coach that has athletes and you'd like to have them tested, send me a message and we can organize a time where we can look at doing that for you. Thank you again, and I'll see you in the next one.